Snapchat. Like the Snapchat camera works better.
I know.
Just involved. My kids are cool with their grandmas. I'm thinking about it. Oh, stop it. I'm sorry.
Because I'm yelling.
I'm guessing I can tag her.
I'll tag you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2016 CAIR Iowa Banquet. We're delighted to have you here this evening, and we've encouraged the staff to go ahead with the salad service, so food will be coming right now. And then in about between 10 and 15 minutes, we'll start with our program as you're eating. So welcome, and let's maybe say a little dua to begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allah, thank you for the gifts that we are about to receive. Thank you for this food, for bringing this gathering here, for bringing all of the people here safely. We pray that we can always have patience and do your good work. Ameen. Enjoy.
I'll read it. Okay, 뭐예요?
Selfie all the time. It's like an art, you know? Oh, this is the selfie queen. She doesn't post one, she posts an album every day. Oh, Tiva. Oh, this is Yasna, by the way, Tiva. I put like +1. Make it 2 because my mom. Fozia. Oh. But we have to go to her graduation first. She was stressing at the family dinner trying to study and eat. I was like, no. Ethiopian. She's married to a Wesley's brother. Judge me and him. I said I'm pretty sure if anybody has the right to judge me, it's him. He's heard too much. She does. She first said she could live in my house. I love it when she does that. I know, it's like texting me. before he was petty.
She made me cry today. Why? She decided to cry so beautiful.
We have been serving the salad first. Those are the rolls that people put in a few minutes. The opening part of the program goes along with the meal will begin. There's a screen that is there that just shows slides. It will be used later on. I'm sitting apart from the rest of the attendees because I want to be in a basement. Good video without obstructing anyone else's view. And I can still aim at that podium and screen to show you. Since this is the National Organization Council of American Historic Nations, the food would have to be allowed. But I fully expect that there is a CAIR he is standing up with these Korean people. He is in the Muslim in the legislature. His district is in the House of Representatives.
Nema ništa sa redom.
There are some non-Muslims present here. They are kind of like CAIR allies. Clearing the way
Yeah, why not? I like her, and she's really smart. She does do that. No, you know her. Why not? You're fun.
She's in Iowa. She has a chapter
It caught the media's attention. I know. She made this going on my wall. And the thing is, people show you
looks like her brother is starting.
Once again, good evening. And before we have the main course, I just wanted to go ahead and take this moment to introduce myself and some of the people who put this event together. I'm Lisa Killinger. I'm a chiropractor, and I'm a professor at Palmer College of Chiropractic. Also, I serve as the Iowa chapter's president and the president of my local Muslim community. We choose to not have an imam in our community. Instead, we elect leaders in our community, and this is my third term as their elected president. So Iowa is a place for trailblazers, and we're going to learn that through this evening. We're so delighted again to have you here, and as we enjoy dinner, I'd like to just point out, first of all, some people who helped organize. I'd like our board to at least stand or raise your hand. Stand, please. Our CAIR Iowa board. Please, let's give them a round of applause. Who did you get way back there, Brother Ahmed? He's everywhere, that man. So we have Brother Ahmed Kamal from Ames. We have Brother Bilal Kaki from Waterloo. We have Sister Sarah Sayed, who's from Cedar Rapids. Sister Miriam Amar, which I always tease her and call her the birth mother of CAIR Iowa, but she could be the queen mother or the princess of Iowa. She's just one tiara short of being our princess tonight. Myself, Lisa Killinger. Where are my other board members? Brother Akeo Abdul Samad, of course I don't want to forget. And who else have I missed, Sister? Brother Mahmoud, where did you go? Oh, he's holding down the rear quadrant here. So Brother Mahmoud Hamad from Drake University. So we're delighted to have all of our board members here, and we hope to have a great evening in store for you. I wanted to point out that we have a representative of CAIR National who will be addressing you later. Sister Rula, would you wave so that people know where you are? Hey, we're delighted to have you here representing the National Council on American Islamic Relations. And we have a guest who has joined us here, Dean Obeidullah, who will be addressing us later. Dean, you want to wave, say hi so they'll know where you are? And let's just first of all say a little bit about Muslims in Iowa. Iowa is a surprising place, and I wouldn't be a good chiropractor unless I mentioned that this is the birthplace of chiropractic. The mothership of chiropractic is in Iowa because Iowa invented chiropractic back in the day in 1895 with Dr. D.D. Palmer. There, that's what that picture represents. We are very, very excited about our role in education in Iowa. We have some of the top schools in the nation. We are always hold education to be a very strong value, just like Islam. And you can see that 1846 was when we founded education here in Iowa. The University of Iowa is very, very beloved by the fans of Iowa football, and the top U.S. hospital and clinic, very, very famous place, as well as Iowa State University, which is closer here, my alma mater, and by the way, where the computer was invented, so another little surprise about Iowa State. Who are Cyclones here, by the way? Where's my Cyclones? Woo-hoo, give it up for the Ames team here. And where's our Iowa Hawkeye fans? We got some Hawkeye fans here. All right, good. We've positioned you far enough apart that there will not be any bloodshed tonight. That's our aim here. But I wanted to talk about the first Iowa Muslims. There was some trouble in the Middle East, and the U.S. made a statement welcoming immigrants from a troubled area called Phoenicia at that time. Now it's called Lebanon. And so the Muslims started coming. And I wanted to just preface this with, these were not the first Muslims, of course, in Iowa. Our country has a very sad history of slavery, and the first Muslims in most states were slaves that had come over on slave ships. So we have to remember that. It's a little bit less well documented, but certainly we don't want to forget that that's where it all started. That's 101 years ago. In 1915, the U.S. House of Representatives rejected a proposal to allow women to vote. Just to give a historical context of what was happening in 1915, World War I was in full force. An average house cost $3,200, and a car cost $2,000, because a car was considered a luxury at that time, certainly. And some Muslims were immigrating to the U.S., and this is in Aossi. It says on the truck, William Aossi, 1915. In 1934, a drought in Iowa devastated our crops. The majority of crops were really useless from that terrible drought. A gallon of gas was 10 cents. Woohoo! I remember when it was $1. I remember when it hit $1 and I thought, oh, that's it. I'm out. I'm not driving anymore. It's $1. But it was 10 cents. The average house cost $6,000 then, and we were in the middle of the Great Depression. Hitler finished his first year in office, and the Mother Mosque was founded. The Mother Mosque is the longest continually serving mosque in America, and again, Iowa is a starting point for so many good things. So the Mother Mosque, at this time you can see some of the members are listed on the side by name. If you want to take a look, I have a slide set where you can actually read them if you'd like the paper. That listed some of the members in that Mother Mosque in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We're very proud of that mosque, and it consists today of not only a mosque where people can pray, but a cultural center that does a lot of great interfaith work. Now, because of this early immigration, we have 5 generations of Iowa Muslims at least, and we have grown to be about 24 mosques in Iowa, with mosques in Sioux City and Waterloo, and Cedar Falls area has several mosques. Des Moines has many mosques, probably the most in the state. Ames, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids has several, Clinton, the Quad Cities where I'm from, Fairfield and Dubuque all have mosques, and we're delighted in the growth in the Muslim community. I joke that in our Muslim community the average age of people is about 8. Do your mosques have a bunch of kids running around? We're pleased to have this event a little bit child-free because we oftentimes struggle with a little bit of population explosion among our Muslim families. And also in our mosques, we have the running joke in my mosque that we don't ask what do you do for a living, we say what subspecialty do you serve in? Because there's so many Iowa Muslim doctors, and some of them are here tonight. We have a very diverse community in Iowa, and all you need to do is look around the room. I imagine that just if you looked at my own community, we have Pakistanis, we have Indians, we have at least a dozen African nations represented in the Quad City area. We have people from Iran, Afghanistan, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Algeria, Libya, Tunisia, Morocco. All the Maghribis are there. We have Bosnia, Kosovo, Macedonia, Kuwait, Saudi, UAE, Yemen, Palestine, Turkey, Azerbaijan, all of the stands. Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, all of the stands that I can't pronounce, all of them are there. They all make up the fabric of our very diverse Iowa Muslim community. And we're so proud. What church can you go to where there'll be 25 different countries represented in an evening potluck? It doesn't happen. I'm so excited every Friday night to go to our potluck, where we have sometimes 20, sometimes 25, sometimes 30 different nations represented, and their food. So it's the United Nations of Food and Clothes. And another first for Iowa, I believe it to be the first, but Sister Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, the first large-scale U.S. halal food company, Midamar, is here in Iowa, and we're so delighted to have them provide our meat tonight. What's that? The meat, our tenderloin tonight from Midamar. And then, if we fast forward just a little bit, came CAIR Iowa. CAIR Iowa, founded in 2009, which this makes it our 7th year. I just have to do that math every time. We serve the needs of Iowa Muslims. We do civil rights programs. We do educational programs. We feed the hungry. We provide Qur'ans and dates for Muslim inmates here in Iowa because there are hundreds and hundreds of incarcerated people that embrace Islam while they're in prison. We have employee advocacy and many, many other activities. And it takes effort and it takes a village to do that type of work. Just as an example, 2 years ago, Ramadan, we had the Eid feed, and we gathered at just one mosque, we gathered several $1,000s and several truckloads of canned goods and non-perishables, which we took to local food pantries, and that was repeated in other masajid around the state. So we're very proud of not only while we're hungry from our fast, feeding those who are hungry routinely in our communities. Probably the biggest humanitarian effort related to Syrian refugees occurred in Iowa this year. An interfaith group, including a rabbi, myself, and several pastors in the Quad Cities, said we need to do something about the Syrian refugee crisis. We can no longer sit on our hands and say what a sad thing it is. We must do something. So we had 1,600 people of all faiths, including Buddhist nuns, Muslims, rabbis, Jewish community, Hindu community, Christian communities of all stripes came out, and we packed 264,000 meals, a whole shipping container that was just sent to Syria this week. It took us about $62,000 to do that effort, and the Muslim community was front and center in that effort in raising the money, in doing the work, and in making sure that gets to where it's going. It's going through the U.S. Air Force, and they're delivering it by hand with GPS tracking, and we'll be able to have pictures of that to share with this group. We're very excited about that effort. Several of our CAIR individuals were involved in that. And I just want to say, this is a very, of course, brief introduction to CAIR Iowa, but we have many, many stories. There have been many children bullied in Iowa schools. There have been many employees who have been literally bullied and tortured at their places of work. One gentleman, and if I mistell the story, Sister Miriam, please correct me, who was literally teased, tormented, and bullied by his coworkers and his boss. They would take his prayer rug, they would do things to defile him, they would call names and tease, and he was so stressed that he had a heart attack on the job. As soon as he went to the hospital, his boss fired him for not being on the floor doing his job. I don't know where you come from, but in my world, a heart attack is an excused absence. But he got fired for that. Sister Miriam, our executive director, came to his defense and fought hard all day with the lawyers sitting at the other end of the table to make sure that this violation of human rights would never be repeated. He was compensated fully. He had a lot of mouths to feed, and he was not a man of a lot of means. And she made sure that he was compensated appropriately for that. And so let's give our sister who does the brunt of the work in this organization a big hand, Sister Miriam, for doing things like this. That's only the tip of the iceberg of the type of things that CAIR Iowa does. The majority of our work is with volunteers, like the board that I introduced, and we can't do it without your help. That brings us here tonight. So I'm going to let you enjoy your food and leave it at that, but we hope that you'll be generous in your support of CAIR Iowa here tonight. So thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to interacting with you more as the evening goes on. Thank you. it is our distinct pleasure to invite a speaker from CAIR, Iowa. Sister Rula, I'm going to have you join us on the stage now, and she'll present. And again, brief presentation. It won't take all of your time, but let's welcome Sister Rula, please.
Assalamu alaikum. What an honor it is to be here on behalf of the National Board of Directors of CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations, to be here with all of you. It's my first time in Iowa. It's been a good trip, alhamdulillah, and it's wonderful to see so many people and such a diverse crowd here in Des Moines. When I was telling people I was coming to Iowa, people asked, well, what's in Iowa? And I said, well, our fellow brothers and sisters in the community and an incredible group of people working for CAIR Iowa, so it's an honor to be here with you all and to support the work that's being done. On behalf of the National Board and the National Office, I want to extend appreciation to Sister Lisa and the entire board here in Iowa, all the volunteers, and of course Sister Mariam for the work that's being done in this office. Mashallah, you heard some of it. I'm going to share a little bit more with you, and hopefully you'll learn more throughout the evening about the tremendous work that's being done here in Iowa. And all of that we know is only possible with the work, the volunteer, the support of the community in different ways, whether it be by listening, following up on action alerts, whether it be by making dua and contributing in that way, but also in financially supporting the organization as well. So we appreciate, from the national perspective, all of the support that CAIR Iowa receives from each and every one of you here today, alhamdulillah. It's also an honor to be here speaking with our brother Dean. I told him earlier I'm glad I get to go before him and not after him, so he can make you laugh after I give you a little bit more serious talk. But he's somebody who, through his work in writing and comedy, is really helping to combat the Islamophobic environment that we're facing. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless and reward him for the work that he's doing, and thank you for your support of CAIR as well. Yeah. And it's also a particular honor to be here in Iowa. Word on the street is that one of our CAIR National current staff people, but somebody who's been a part of the CAIR family for many years, is from here. Sister Lori Soroya, who's currently the Chapter Development Director at CAIR National, was the founder of CAIR Minnesota, worked as the Executive Director there for many years, was my fellow board member on the National Board for a period of time. She's a tremendous advocate for the American Muslim community, and I know she got her roots here, so jazakallah khair to anyone and everyone that contributed in empowering her to be the leader that she is today, alhamdulillah. Brothers and sisters, I don't have to tell you about the challenging times that our community is facing. We all see it, we all feel it, we're all experiencing it. It seems like every time we turn around, there's a new negative, ignorant, hateful thing that's being said about the American Muslim community. And what I can tell you, we've been witnessing this in the presidential campaign. It was happening before, but I know I don't have to tell you that it's something that's been increasing. Alhamdulillah, I'm humbled to report to you that despite the climate that we're facing, alhamdulillah, CAIR on a national level here in Iowa and in our chapters across the country is ready and able and alhamdulillah committed as ever to stand for you and to advocate for you and to protect the rights and civil liberties of this community so that we can make sure that our kids, more than anything, are protected and able to live in society equally and to know that they can contribute in all ways. So alhamdulillah, again, we know that that's possible with your support. This past year has brought a lot of difficult times. As we've said, there's been an increase in Islamophobia, increasing in that kind of environment, and there have been many issues that people are facing. Here locally in Iowa, there was a local Muslim-owned home that was vandalized. There was a mosque that received threats. And alhamdulillah, through your support, the work of CAIR Iowa, the CAIR Iowa team stood for the people in the home, stood with the members of the mosque that were recipients of the threat, and alhamdulillah, we're able to protect them, represent them with law enforcement officials to make sure that those attacks were treated as they should have been, as hate crimes, and made sure that the individuals that were put in danger were protected and safe and that their rights were advocated for. And I hope that many of you know the tremendous work that's being done in collaboration with others to stand against anti-Islam legislation. There are places across the country where anti-Sharia, anti-Islam legislation is being proposed, and Iowa is one of them. And for 3 years in a row, alhamdulillah, through the work of Sister Mariam and others, and in collaboration with many people, But CAIR Iowa has taken the lead on making sure that for 3 years in a row, that anti-Islam legislation that's been proposed has been defeated, alhamdulillah. So, yeah. So again, we're honored to be able to have CAIR Iowa and their work as part of the CAIR family. What I can tell you is just as there's these issues happening here in Iowa, there are incidents happening across the country, and there are many that you've heard of, a lot maybe that you haven't, but I want to touch on a few and let you know that in those instances, CAIR has been there, alhamdulillah, to work either directly with the community or at times in collaboration with the local office to make sure that the rights and liberties of the Muslim community in that area are protected. So many of us last year can remember where we were when we heard about a shooting that took place in Chapel Hill, where 3 of our youngest and brightest leaders, future leaders in the American Muslim community were executed. And what we initially heard was they were executed over a parking lot dispute. And I think many of us can probably remember where we were. And whenever I reference this story, I think it's important to say the names of the 3 beautiful people whose lives we lost that day. Dia, Yusur, and Razan, 3 young bright stars who were killed, and then, as I've spoken with their families, to add additional insult to the tragedy that happened, people were talking about it as though it was a parking lot dispute. Brothers and sisters, we found out about this story, this incident that took place late one night, and I'm honored to report to you that first thing in the morning at Fajr time, there were 4 leading staff members from our national office that were in a car on their way to Chapel Hill. They looked up flights, and to take flights to Chapel Hill from DC would have taken too long. So they got in their cars before Fajr, drove down so that they could be with the families, first and foremost to offer their condolences, to offer condolences on behalf of all of us, because those of us that are part of CAIR, I always call it a CAIR family, and those who are working with CAIR, volunteering with CAIR, and supporting CAIR as members of the community are all a part of that family. So alhamdulillah, they were able to go and first and foremost offer our condolences, but then to stand with the family and to advocate for them, and to advocate for what was occurring, and to make sure that dealing with law enforcement officials, they were looking at this as a hate crime and not as a parking lot dispute. And we know the investigation even showed there wasn't even a parking spot taken. So alhamdulillah, through the work of CAIR National, we were able to assist the families in that tragedy. And in the past few months, we've been hearing more and more of attacks on mosques, attack on Muslims, and also these situations that are coming up more and more of people being asked to deplane airplanes. So Muslims that are just being asked to get off planes for suspicious behavior, which apparently the most recent one was somebody using the word inshallah. And I'm going to leave the jokes to Dean on that one. But I know myself and how often I fly, and I was telling a coworker, if I'm on the phone with my mom, I've probably said inshallah 6 times. So we all know the use of that word in our community. And alhamdulillah, the CAIR staff members in the national office and chapters across the country are representing those individuals, advocating for them in the media, and making sure that people look at the issues and making sure that they see the Islamophobia and the environment that our community has been facing. And then, who remembers the clockmaker, Ahmed Muhammad? This young, bright, he was a 14-year-old kid last year, kid in Texas who took the clock that he made to school, and he was excited to show his teacher this clock that he'd made. So this young child of immigrant Muslim kid takes his clock to school to show his teachers, and what's the reception that he gets? He's treated as a criminal. I think there was a slideshow that was showing earlier. There's a picture of Ahmed in handcuffs. This kid that goes to tell his family, to tell his teacher about this creative invention that he had, is then sent home in handcuffs and suspended from school. And the part of that story that I'm most proud of is of Ahmed and his family themselves, who, when they were facing that kind of discrimination, stood up for his rights, protected his rights, called the local CAIR Dallas office, and said, this is what's happened and we don't think it's right. And alhamdulillah, again, in collaboration with the national office, the CAIR team was able to work with Ahmed and his family immediately, especially in those first few days following that situation. It was a media firestorm. People were all over this story. He even got a tweet from the President of the United States of America supporting him. And so what we've seen is that there's these attacks, these increase in situations happening. But alhamdulillah, through the work that we're doing at CAIR, one of our goals is to make sure that our kids know that they have the right to be anything that they want to be, up to and including President of the United States of America. And so part of our work at CAIR is to try to figure out not just dealing with the reaction of what's occurring, but to understand the causation of these issues. And brothers and sisters, this is a very well-organized, extremely well-funded industry that's working to fight against the American Muslim community and working to dehumanize us, to spread this rhetoric and hate against our community. At CAIR, we put together a report, Islamophobia report we call it, and there's an update that's going to be coming out hopefully in the next few weeks that will give more information on this industry and the people behind it. And I think one thing that's important to note is we're in this political climate and dealing with the presidential election. There's one person that we often are hearing about. I'm not going to say names up here. There's one person that we often hear about. One of the people that's running for president has named as one of his top political national security advisors, one of the key people in the Islamophobia industry, one of the key people who's making money off of making more and more stories and developing hate and rhetoric against our community. And again, it's not the name that you're thinking it may be. So we need to be careful, we need to be mindful as a community to make sure that knowledge is power. So let's have the knowledge so that we can make sure that we protect our rights. And alhamdulillah at CAIR, I'm glad to be able to report that we've been working to put that information out there so that our community can be empowered with it and know what we can do to protect ourselves. And as we're talking about the Islamophobic environment and the things that the community is facing, it's important to note that these attacks are happening not only in an organized way, but they're happening to a lot of different groups and organizations. So while we see mosques being attacked, while we see individuals being attacked, unfortunately, we at CAIR are not immune from that. And we know that as the leading advocate and civil rights organization for the American Muslim community, people would love to see us silenced and would love to see our voice shut down. And one of the things that occurred in the past year was an attack against two of our offices. So a few months ago, the DC office and the Bay Area office received a white powdery substance in the mail. And that white powdery substance, it was unknown at the time what it was, so those two offices, the DC office and the Bay Area office, had to be evacuated. So all of the staff in both of those offices had to be evacuated. They left the work that they were doing, working to defend and protect the rights of the American Muslim community, and evacuated not knowing what this threat was. Now, alhamdulillah, it turned out that the threat was not one that actually led to physical danger. The powdery substance was nothing. It was sent to scare, it was sent to silence, but it wasn't something that led to physical harm. In the sense that people were evacuated, they did have to undergo some medical treatment and evaluation, but alhamdulillah, everybody was fine. The part of that story that speaks so much to me, though, as I go around the country and I meet different communities and I have the honor of working with CAIR and being a part of the CAIR family, I'm reminded more and more every day that the people that work and volunteer with CAIR are the heroes of our community. They're my personal heroes, and they are the heroes of our community. Brothers and sisters, when those two offices were evacuated, everybody else in the CAIR family across the country stayed at work. They knew that there may be threats coming against them because on the same day, white powdery substance that we didn't know what it was yet was sent to DC and was sent to the Bay Area. But the people in the CAIR family stayed at work and they went to work the next day. They continued to advocate for the rights of the Muslim community. And as we recognize the work that was done across the country, I want to make sure that we take a moment to recognize the staff here in Iowa, Sister Mariam and whomever else that was volunteering with CAIR, that didn't allow that fear to silence them. So alhamdulillah, despite the attack, despite the threat against CAIR, Sister Mariam and others across the country continued to work to advocate for our rights, and they stood up to those who were trying to silence them with this attack. So I want to take a moment to recognize and appreciate Sister Mariam here, but all those across the country who continue to work for our rights every day. So brothers and sisters, as we talk about the challenges that our community faces, I always want to talk about the flip side of that, because with challenge comes opportunity. So what is the opportunity that we in this community, we in the American Muslim community have? What can we do so that we can make sure that we don't turn into a community that's negative, a community that's not taking action? We are an action-based community. We know from the example of our Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, that we're supposed to strive for justice, we're supposed to strive for equality, and we're supposed to take action. We're not just going to sit around and talk about how bad things are. We're going to do everything that we can to stand up for and protect the rights of ourselves and our community. So what can we do? So in the current climate that we're facing, what can we as a community do? So one of the things I'd like to tell you about that CAIR and other national organizations have joined under the leadership of the United States Council of Muslim Organizations, the USCMO. And we've come together to formulate this campaign called the One America Campaign. And its goal and its purpose is to empower the American Muslim community to be engaged in the political process and to be engaged with our fellow citizens to make sure that people can know and see who the American Muslim community is. So as a part of that campaign, one of the things that we're going to do is have a National Open Mosque Day. So for those of you here in here in Iowa saying, what can we do? What can we do to contribute and help? This is one of the things that you can do. Join us in the National Open Mosque Day. Let's make sure that people have the right to come into our houses of worship and see what's going on in there, see the lectures that are being taught, the manner of prayer that Muslims participate in, and let them see their fellow citizens that happen to be Muslim and happen to be of the Islamic faith. So the National Mosque Open House Day is one of the things we're doing. The second part of the campaign is something that I'm most particularly excited about, and it's a drive to register 1 million new voters. They don't have to be Muslims, so 1 million new voters of any background, but the goal is to recognize that as a community, we need to be more engaged in the political process. We can't afford to continue to sit on the sidelines and let these political campaigns happen that continue to be a lot of rhetoric about us, because all we keep hearing about is Muslims, but they're making this campaign about us and we're not in it, so it's without us. So if we can register, if we can be informed, we're engaged and we vote, then we as a community are participating actively in the process. So I encourage you to join us in that effort, to register, be informed, be engaged, and vote. Excuse me. And so another part of when I'm talking about registering and being informed and being engaged, a part that's important for our community to start understanding is the need for us to be engaged by participating in the process, not just by registering and voting, but by running for office. And I'm so honored to hear that here today we have a representative who's been in the House of Representatives in Iowa for 10 years, mashallah, a local leader who is showing, with his leadership, an example for the rest of us to make sure that we become engaged in the political process. So, Imam, it's an honor to meet you. It's an honor to hear about the work that you're doing. And alhamdulillah, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you strength in the work that you do and to use you as an example for others so that next time I come to Iowa, I want to meet a lot more representatives, inshallah. And the other level, when we're talking about representatives and being involved and being engaged, we are honored to have in the Muslim community two brothers, Keith Ellison, thank you, and Andre Carson, who are the first and second Muslims in Congress. I can't wait to see when we have the first Muslim woman in Congress. So I encourage everyone to be more involved politically, register and vote, but also think about how you can contribute by actually running for office, inshallah. And the last thing I wanted to leave you all with is a story that I hope will provide some hope. Because as we talk about the negative things that are happening, and as we talk about the Islamophobia, not just the industry, but the hate and rhetoric that's been happening against our community, it seems like there's this effort to kind of dehumanize Muslims and to make us internally feel like we're hated, like we're not equal citizens with equal rights, and that our fellow citizens dislike us and maybe even hate us. And while I know there are those that support certain candidates that are spewing hate, and there are those in our society that probably have hate not just against Muslims but against African Americans and against people of the Jewish faith and against many, many other people and other minority groups, I don't believe for a second that our fellow citizens hate us. And I'm not going to allow those people in that industry and the people that are trying to divide us as a community, not just within the American Muslim community, but all of us. They're trying to divide us against one another, and I know that my fellow citizens see us as just members of another faith group, equally able to serve in different roles in society, and equal contributors in society. And the more we become engaged and involved, the more people will know us, and the more we can work to create bridges of understanding with one another and eradicate some of the fears that are leading to the hateful incidents that are happening against the community. So there's just one story I wanted to leave you with that I think is reflective of the spirit of the American people. And it's a story that comes to you by way of Kentucky, because while I traveled here technically from Cincinnati, I live in northern Kentucky, which is just across the river from Ohio. I'm a Kentucky girl. I was born and raised there. And so when I moved to the Cincinnati area, I couldn't quite make it over the river. So I live technically in Kentucky. And so I'll leave you for a moment to have your stereotypes about Kentucky, because I've heard all of them. But while we're leading in basketball, in college basketball, we also have very kind people living in Kentucky. And I think the story I'm going to tell you will hopefully reflect that. So I was traveling recently for CAIR, and I landed and had like text messages and phone calls going crazy when I turned off from airplane mode. And I learned that there was a city council meeting in the small suburb that I live in that was happening 2 days after I landed. And what was occurring was there was a local Muslim immigrant store owner that had opened a halal shop. And so he was actually selling zabi hamid, and mashallah, it was impressive to hear about the first company here in Iowa. But this brother was opening just a small business, and in his business, in the location that he had, he was also selling, like slaughtering the meat and selling it. And so apparently a month before, there had been a few citizens, but one person in particular that was taking the lead on protesting the store. So he was protesting and saying there was noise and there was smell, and this store shouldn't be in this area, and we don't want it in our neighborhood. But he was focusing on noise and smell. So the first city council meeting, a month before I learned of the incident and the issue, they go to the city council, and he makes his complaint. So the city administrator, the city attorney, everybody evaluates it. And what they find is that the brother was operating under the full bounds of the law, no issues. He had every permit he needed. He was slaughtering correctly. He was operating his store fully. There was no noise, no smell, so they gave him a clean bill of health, for lack of a better word, and he was good to operate. Well, the person that was protesting wasn't happy about that, so decided to continue to protest. Only this time, the protest didn't talk about noise and smell. The protest was about Islam and Muslims. And he let out a flyer that he distributed to the communities around the store that referenced Islam and Muslims, that was very negative, it was hateful, it had irrelevant references to Islam and Muslims, inaccurate ones, but hateful ones as well. And so I learned then that the city council meeting that was coming up 2 days after I landed was going to be when people had the chance to make public comment about the store and about the dispute and about the protest that was being made. So I thought, well, somebody should go that will support our brother. So I was able to contact him. I was reassured by him that he was still, as far as the city attorneys and officials told him, operating fully under the law and had no legal problems. But he knew that there was this protest and this flyer had been distributed, and he was nervous about the meeting. So I decided to meet him at the meeting that Tuesday night. And what I found when I got there, first, I couldn't find a parking spot. And again, small suburb in northern Kentucky, not a place where I'm expecting a lot of people to go to a city council meeting. I couldn't find a parking spot. I parked a few buildings away and made it in. When I got there, I couldn't count a seat. So I was standing in the back of the room. After being in there for a moment, I realized there were a lot of police officers I was standing with. So a lot of police officers are at this meeting. So for about 45, 50 minutes, the city goes through its business, and then we get to the point where it's public comment, and you can feel the tension in the room. I mean, I was tense. I can tell you, when I realized how full the room was, I pulled out my iPhone and started writing notes to myself of things I could say to support our brother, because I was expecting an onslaught of attacks against him. And so public comment started. The first person to speak was the individual who had the hateful comments and the flyer that he distributed, and he was as nasty as you would expect. And he sat down. And again, the room is very kind of tense. And then, brothers and sisters, a member of the Erlanger community, white American person, got up and started speaking. And after a few seconds, I was like, wait, he's saying beautiful things. And he was speaking in support of the immigrant Muslim store owner. And when he was done, a city council person started clapping, and everyone in the room followed suit, except for the person that had written the flyer. And then another person got up and did the same thing and supported our immigrant Muslim brother. And then a third person and a fourth person, a fifth, sixth, and seventh. And by that point, I was in tears. Because, brothers and sisters, his fellow citizens saw this flyer, saw the hate that was in it, and said, no, we're not going to support that. That's not something that we're going to allow in our community. They took the time out of their, I'm sure, busy schedules to come to the meeting to rise in support of our Muslim brother. And so those are the fellow citizens that we have in our country. Those are the people that we go to work with every day, the people that we interact with every day. And so while I know that there's hate and rhetoric against our community, Let's remember the spirit of the American people. Let's remember the spirit in our fellow citizens. And let's not allow ourselves to internalize this hate that's coming against us. Let's follow the example of our prophet. Let's make sure peace and blessings be upon him. Let's be sure that we do what we can to speak up for and stand for the rights of our community, inshallah. And if we don't do it for ourselves, if I haven't encouraged you to do this for yourself, for the other adults that you see around the room, think about the kids that were dropped off at babysitting. Think about the kids that you've left alone. Think about what our kids are hearing. Think about what our kids are internalizing because of the hate and rhetoric that's coming against our community. So I would ask you to please think about the kids, think about the work that needs to be done to protect and to support them. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless and protect each and every one of you. I thank you for the support and commitment that you've shown to CAIR Iowa by being here today, because each of you took time out of your schedule to come and support the work that's being done in this office. And I know this is a fundraising dinner, so I know that you understand that there's going to be a request for money at some point. And I know we work hard, we all work hard. But I ask you humbly to think about how you can contribute to support the work that's being done in this office in Iowa, to protect you, to protect your rights, but far more importantly, to protect the rights of our kids so that they know that their rights are protected. Let's work together, let's protect our kids, let's show them that as we work together, the way that we can strengthen our voice and advance our community in the future and to speak out against the hate and rhetoric is to protect our rights and to speak for ourselves and to not allow others to speak for us. Jazakumullah khair, wassalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
We're so blessed to have the sister here from CAIR National, and I'm really, really inspired by that story. And I think that we all could tell a story like this, where people have come out in our community in support of us, and it's really, really encouraging. It's very, very encouraging. We hope for tonight's message to be one of encouragement. It is Maghrib time, so I wanted to invite anybody who would like to pray their sundown prayers, their Maghrib prayers. We will be praying in this corner of the room. We have sheets that have been provided for us. And then after that, we will be inviting Brother Akeo Abdul Samad for a few words, some encouragement. And then we will have Brother Dean Obeidullah. So now it's Maghrib time. I don't know, Brother, would you mind maybe doing a call for prayer? If there's somebody who would volunteer. Is there somebody who would volunteer to get him off the hook?
Muhammad.
Yes, of course, please. Brother, if you could do that, that would be great.
Muhammad Khan.
You guys give me $50 each. We're gonna Photoshop them also.
Oh, wow. Look at this preciousness. I love other cat parents who learn to brag about my cat. Thank you. Thank you. All the time. I'm a little annoying. She's always reminding me it's not the same as being an actual parent. And I'm like, yes, it is.
Like the edges around my lipstick stuff.
Yeah, my mom's just pretty much adopted the role of grandmother. Of course, yes. But it's very human like when you spend enough time with them, you realize they have their Right, right.
So much doji.
We just try to spend like half the night.
So Monica will invite everybody to come back to their seats, and mashallah, brother, may Allah reward you for your beautiful reading of the Quran and leading us in prayer, and for our muezzin who called the prayer. I wanted to ask, first of all, to see who's in the audience. How many of you are students? Do we have some students? Raise your hand. All right. And how many of you in this audience, this is your first time at a CAIR Iowa event? Mashallah, mashallah, that's great. So you guys are the few, the proud, the leaders who have shown up. And I wanted to point out what we have on our tables for you. There should be about 5 of these at every table, and if you want more, we have more. This is a Know Your Rights pamphlet. That is the shiny, glossy thing. It's sitting by the candles, perhaps.
Or they're put at the play settings.
and some of them are deplacing, but you can find this, and this is your something for you to take home. If you decide that you need more for your community, let us know. You also have some information that's on a table tent like this that says CAIR's core principles and CAIR's vision and mission. We'd love for you to take this home to your communities and to share this with someone else in your community, because few people know of how much work is going on behind the scenes. And I know, since this is your first time here, you didn't even know how much work is going on behind the scenes, but literally sometimes dozens of phone calls a day, sometimes 100 in a week that we answer, that are issues that are brought up, and it is a great deal of effort. And so this talks about the things that CAIR does nationally and that we do as well locally. There's also a bigger sheet that is CAIR at a glance, and not only does it have that vision and mission, but it also, and core principles, but it also talks about the different types of activities that CAIR does. For example, CAIR does civil rights work. We do media relations. There are always action alerts that say things that CAIR is doing to help the Muslim communities. There's internship opportunities for you students, by the way. There are publications that CAIR puts out. We do education, conferences, seminars, trainings for police departments, for schools to talk about interacting with the Muslim community in a positive way, voter registration, outreach, and interfaith activities, as well as, Sister Miriam, we had our first youth camp last September, and we will again, inshallah, be having a youth camp in this coming September. We would love for you to tell your communities that we kept it to middle school and high school age, you know, a little bit older kids. And so we would love to again have a camp. And so if you're interested in either helping as a volunteer or participating as a camper, we would love to have you. Another little piece that's at your table that's not an unimportant one for an event like this is our CAIR pledge envelope. So I just wanted to point that out. There are a lot of ways that you can give. They're at all of your place settings. There was one when you walk in. You can give in the form of cash, checks, credit cards, pledges, all of the above, none of the above, some of the above, any of the above. We would love any sort of help that you can offer. But that's not my job to ask. We are asking by the way, the first Muslim House of Representatives member is here in the room. He serves on our CAIR Iowa board. His name is Brother Akeo Abdul Samad. We spoke together a long time ago when you talked about how to make waffles. And I will never ever forget it. Because waffles were the analogy for having instructions for life in our Holy Quran. And it was the most hilarious and effective message that I've ever seen anyone deliver about Islam and about the importance of having guidance. Please welcome Brother Akeo Abdul Samad to the podium.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, that Muhammad is a messenger of Allah. I give you the greetings from Muslims from all over the world of Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Okay, you know, I've been sitting here for a few minutes and we've been real weak as Muslims. You know, the claps has been weak, the responses have been weak, and we're not going to be weak because we have come too far and we have struggled too hard. And what we just seen what CAIR has done, we got to do better. So first of all, our guest here, that is national, we're going to give her a round of applause like we do in Iowa. Please do that. Okay, I feel better now. I didn't want you to leave it here to go back to that part of Kentucky that we'll let Dean talk about later, but I got some jokes about Kentucky. But anyway, what we want to do that. And when we come together as Muslims, when we come together and you hear somebody give you the greetings of Assalamu alaikum, you're supposed to give it back stronger and better. Now that's where I was taught as a Muslim. So I'm going to do it one more time. and they might ask for some money. So I want you to be energized. All right? Y'all hear me? Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Hey, now we're getting, now I feel like a Muslim again. Now I feel good. Now, I just want you to know that this is not robbery. But let me take my jacket off so you know I'm carrying. So I'm going to collect some money tonight. Now, it's up to you how you leave here. All right? I'm only kidding. This is my wallet. Brother Muhammad Khan would not allow me to carry. And if I did, Donald Trump might show up. So anyway, Dean, I'm still just a little bit. All right, brother. I'm warming them up for you. All right, brother. But all joking aside, you heard what CAIR does. And I bought the Quran and I could recite in English some things in the Quran. But the key is to know, as Sister talked about it, it's talking about the babies. It's talking about our children. Talking about babies going to school. It's talking about what's going on when it comes to discrimination against Muslims. There's no reason why we don't have a right to live our life and not let life live us. We can't let individuals dictate to us what we're about in our own discipline, in our own religion. We can't even, when I hear Donald Trump, I start laughing. It's funny to me. It's funny to me because when you have that much ignorance in America and they're representing a nation and they're representing, talking about becoming leadership, all I can do is say alhamdulillah. Because I believe there's a part in the Quran and the Quranic scholars and remind me, but it says that when you hear a fool speaking, all you do is say shalom. Is that right? You shake your head, it's all right. Ain't nobody going to take y'all away out of here. See, we have to learn to stand up to be Muslim. We have to be proud to be Muslim. The day I walked into the State House, I wore my kufi and I took my prayer rug and my kufi. When I reconnected with Islam in 1972, I have not stopped wearing my kufi. I'm proud to wear my kufi. I'm proud to carry my Islam with me, and I don't have to bring the Quran and go to the Republicans on my Democratic colleague and say, Islam, Islam, Islam. I don't have to do that. All I do is when they do the prayer at the opening every morning, I raise my hands. And when it's time to make salat, I grab my prayer rug out of my drawer, and I go make salat. This is your time now to help us with CAIR. You heard what CAIR does. You heard the struggle that we have been through. You heard that CAIR stands for Muslims, not only here in Iowa, but across this country. I don't have to tell you what's going on in Gaza. I don't have to tell you what's going on in Africa. I don't have to tell you what's going on in Kentucky or Mississippi. I don't have to tell you what's going on in Iowa. You know what Muslims are going through. Now we have to support an organization that helps that cause. We have to support an organization, and I know times is tough. I know the economics is tough, but so is living for our babies. I had a young man the other day tell me, Brother Kale, I can die for you. I said, brother, I don't want you to die for me. I want you to live for me. Because living is hard. So that means we have to dig deep tonight in our pockets. We can go through the Quran and I can pull out verse after verse that tells you about giving. I can go through the Quran and spend the next 20 minutes, brother, telling you you're supposed to give. I don't want to spend 20 minutes. Because, see, I always have a rule that I can't eat dinner until after I talk, so I'm starving. So that means we got to raise this money quickly. And we're going to do it efficiently. And what I want you to do now is grab the envelope on your table and hold it up. Because I want to make sure everybody understands we're on the same page. Hold your envelope up. Hold it up so I can see it. I'm also Monday having cataract surgery, so you got to hold up high so I can see it. Okay, now, no, don't put it down yet. Don't put it down. Now you know. Now, if I was a politician or run for president, y'all hold up the envelope as long as I said hold it up. Now, come on now. All right, now, I want you to turn and face it towards you like this. Bring it to eye level. And I want those who can put $1,000 check in this envelope. I want you to do it right now. $1,000 check. I need $1,000 check in this envelope. Huh? All credit card. $1,000 check or credit card. I want you to write it right now on here with your name. Don't worry. Those that can put 1,000, we're gonna get you too. Don't worry. We want everybody. Now, if you can do more than 1,000, put it in there. But I'm gonna start with 1,000 because we're gonna make numbers count tonight. I want you to start with $1,000 check. Okay. Once you get it, I want you to hold your envelope up. And then, Sister Miriam, we're going to get somebody to collect it? We got somebody to collect it? Okay. Well, I want you to do that. Now, while the $1,000 checks are there, I want those who can write a $500 check. I want you to write a $500 check in there now, or cash, or credit card. $500. That's what we want. Who can do that? I see people. Well, I see somebody on the smartphone. They're doing it the other way. All right, just put it in there now. Then you got it, don't you? That's a thank you. You did your $5,000 on it?
No.
Okay. Well, we're going to be like $5,000 to us a care.
We don't be in broke.
Yeah. All right, that's what we want. All right, then we got the $500. All right, the next one on here is $250. Who can do $250? I want you to do $250 on him. Come on, $250. Okay. Now we're going to hit my category. $100. We're going $100. I want $100. I need $100. Oh, did I see $100 right there? Got $100 for you? All right. Everybody's going to give $100. I want you to wave the envelope. I'm waving mine. It's okay. Wave it at $100. All right. There's $100. $100. Okay. All right. There's $100 over there, $100. All right, it sounds like an auction there, $100, $1,000. All right, here we go, $100. Okay, now, those that don't have that can give less, give what you can. Reach in your pocket now. Pull out the $25, pull out the, we need you to give what you can. Let me tell you a little story while you're writing out your check. So I want everybody, everything. Yes, ma'am. Did I?
Because of your cataracts in mine. We forgot there's a $5,000 slot.
Okay, we don't ever want to forget 5,000. I thought I mentioned that. But anyway, if there's someone to give 5,000, we don't want you to hold back.
Or more.
Or more. We'll take 10. But 5,000 we'll take. Here's the thing. I'm not, because of my schedule, as active on the CAIR board as I would want to be. But I watch Sister Lisa and Sister Marianne. I get on my phone, texts, and we're going to have conference calls and then the follow-up ones. And I'll be sitting at the Capitol. And all of a sudden, my phone gets to going, and I look down, and when it goes over 3 times, I know who it is. That's the work that's being done. And when the bills come up at the Capitol, anti-Islamic bills come up, I get the calls. And not only me as a legislator, but other legislators get the call. And these sisters in CAIR fights hard to make sure that this happens, that it doesn't happen like it has in other cities and other states. This is what your organization does here in Iowa. Be proud of Iowa. We're proud of CAIR nationally, but be proud of Iowa. Now, everybody at the table should send up an envelope for something. Okay, we take credit cards and we take monthly pledges. Monthly, $50 or $100. So if you want to pledge for monthly, do that. You have a pledge from me for $50 a month for CAIR. So you have a pledge for me. Now I want to do a monthly pledge, Sister Lisa. How do I write it on my sheet?
Says amount taken and how much time, and then the account number and how much, and we'll issue it.
So each month, $50. Now some of us spend $50 a month on other little things. We do, like Coca-Cola, Pepsi. And we know we do. Let's put it for a good cause. Let's put it for a cause that works for us. I'm not going to browbeat you here. That's not what I do. Because we know what our obligation is as Muslims. And we have an organization. We have a number of organizations. And I say this, a lot of our organizations work in silos. What CAIR is doing, trying to bring us together. So we quit working in silos and we're working together as a unified body. Because that's what's going to help us as Muslims, is us come together in uniformity. It's just like, to the point is, I hope that and this is my pet peeve, I hope that CAIR helps promote, as we build new mosques, as we build massages across the country, I pray that we build them so they're conducive to our communities. Because when you go to our mosque should not just be a place of prayer, it should be a social service center to help the immigrants that come in. It should be a resource center for the medical that need help medically. It should be a resource center to help those who need legal help. And it should be a center that our sisters can come and swim, they can come and play basketball, they can enjoy themselves, and they're just not conducive to the brothers. That we build, because we got to quit telling our sisters, we don't want you out here showing yourself and showing, and we want you to dress. But the point is, our mosque doesn't provide for them. It doesn't provide a place for them. And if we're going to show what has to go on, then who can speak better for the Muslim sisters and sisters themselves that talk about what is being done in our Muslim community? And who takes our young babies and provides them a place to come to? That's what CAIR is about. That's why you put your money in your envelope. Don't turn around and sell yourselves short. Don't sell yourselves like, we ain't proud to be Muslims, or we ain't proud to be part of CAIR, we ain't proud to stand up and say alhamdulillah, or be scared to walk on a plane and say alhamdulillah. I go all the way through checkout because I'm used to being stopped. I go through all those checkouts with my prayer beads in my hand saying Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And you'll be surprised how they let you at the beginning of the line. Because they look at you and say, oh man. They even get seats that people say, I'll take another flight. You know? Because we have to be proud of who we are. I carry my Quran with my prayer bead. And before we take out, I say a dua. And usually the people sitting next to me end up praying with me. Because they don't know what I'm getting ready to do. But they want to go where I go. I'm just saying to you, this is why CAIR is important. This is why we have to stand up who we are. And when our sisters, let's keep collecting these envelopes, and so I can sit down. But I'm saying to you, as your brother, if we don't make changes for us as Muslims, nobody else will. And if I'm not mistaken, it says in the Quran that Allah will not change the condition of a people till they change the condition themselves. So it says in the Quran. So we must change our own condition. That means we must give. Have we got all the envelopes now? Wave if you haven't given. Somebody has not gotten your envelope. We got an envelope here. We got an envelope here. We got another envelope. Let's get all the